Hi, everybody. Welcome to this next session. My name is Gareth Martin. I'm the CEO of a company called Manuka AI, and we are a Databricks Pure Play partner. Maria, the topic today is will an AI-first business take over your industry? Could you introduce yourself? I think what you're working on at the moment is very relevant to this topic, so maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So my name is Maria Bynes. I am the CEO and co-founder of a company called SynapseDX. That is a startup. It specializes in agentic AI and enabling conversations between parties like patients and doctors. And that agentic AI platform works with a lot of the technologies that we've heard keynotes talk about today. But I also, because in the real world I don't have a lot of money yet, I have another day job for a very, very large organization that's been around a long time. So I've got this interesting dichotomy of what it's like to have a cutting-edge AI world and then the realities of what that looks like in a legacy company with a lot of debt. So it's an interesting day, the morning and the evenings.
Yeah, and I think the topic we're going to talk about today is this disruption, that the potential for disruption, let's say, and given those two different areas of experience, the heritage legacy company with a lot of existing technology, technical debt, and existing systems, complex sprawling ecosystem, versus the agility of a new startup. I guess the first thing we chat about was. How soon might this big disruption come for different industries? How quickly do you think industry will be disrupted by the AI first businesses, and what sort of businesses do you think they are?
Because of my world, I'm supposed to come in here and make you all feel warm and fuzzy that AI is not going to disrupt your world or your business. That was what the marketing people told me to say. But to be quite frank, yes, okay, absolutely. AI is going to disrupt you in some way. But you can also be the disruptor. And that's pretty much what Gareth and I are going to talk to you about today. The industries that will be affected, I think, are going to be everything. I would say FSI, or financial services and insurance, they're going to be a little slow because they're highly governed. Healthcare is probably going to be the last one because of the level of governance that it has. But retail, I think we're going to see some major shifts there. I absolutely believe all these sub-industries that hang off of them, they could likely be disrupted if they're focused on process. So yeah, I think everyone is along for a ride. This is like the new web. It's just AI.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to come in waves, isn't it? We see organizations trying to avoid being disrupted and maybe even be the disruptor. So it's open stakes, right? Anyone can take part in it, and everyone's got the opportunity to be the disruptor. I've always feel that when I look at a lot of organizations who are implementing AI at the moment, they are tending to take it a bit safe and play it a bit safe, take it a bit cautiously, and go slowly. And there's a lot of focus on small, maybe lower value use cases that are safe. So the way I see it, this disruption is going to come in three waves, and only wave 2 and wave 3 are really going to make any difference. The first wave is productivity, which we're kind of trying to do at the moment. So build our agents, build our assistants, build quick and easy to deliver use cases in the organization. And I think that's what a lot of people have been spending a lot of energy on over the past few years. That's just keeping up, in my view. That's just like keeping up. But the real way that we're going to see the organizations, and we're seeing this already in some industries, disrupt is this performance beyond productivity by looking at full process flows, full business functions, and really looking at how we redesign them, re-architect them with AI. I think that's where the first wave of disruption is coming, because we'll create organizations that are much more responsive, much more agile, much more nimble, much more cost effective. But that's just the first step, because I think the second step, which is probably where SynapseDX kind of comes in, is when we start to reimagine an industry or a player in an industry. So designing the insurance business of 2030 powered by AI, or the retailer or the product, the CPG business, or whatever it might be, powered by AI, because I think the opportunity there to redefine an industry is real, and the speed that you can do with now is it's much greater.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like, I think we've all used ChatGPT, we've all used Perplexity. It helps you think. I think there was even an article published on LinkedIn this week about the majority of people use these tools, LLMs specifically, because they help you think. Their clarity of thought. They might rewrite something for you, but often it's an interactive experience. That's a productivity. Your businesses are going to benefit from that, whether they're paying for it or you are. But at the end of the day, that's not going to move the needle. What's going to move the needle is when you implement that interaction and you operationalize it. And that's where you get performance. Essentially, you're surfacing your insights, but you're now making them actionable, not by you, but by an agent that you control. And that's the future. That's going to really cause the major disruption. And I think we're very close to that.
Yeah, you're right. I think there's something there you mentioned about agility. It brings a massive amount of agility to your workforce if you have dynamic agents, right?
Yes.
So you can change the responsibilities and the skill sets much more rapidly. And then you have human orchestrators who are more kind of, the scrum masters, let's say. And we'll talk about that in a while.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think, one question I just had for you, kind of going through what you're going through with your two existing businesses, what's your advice to companies who are worried about or excited about disruption, depending on where they're coming from? What's the top advice you would give to them?
So I don't know what companies you guys work for. I know the companies I'm exposed to have huge backlogs of ideas for AI. I mean, like, really long lists. And all these backlogs of ideas are like, can you rewrite my contract for me? Can you just check the quality of this order, that inventory really exists? Like, really basic stuff. But actually, my advice is go where the money is. So what's closest to your customer that they would benefit from? And just focus on that. And if your customer really likes talking to a human being on the phone, do not replace that human being with AI. Just give that human being the tools to make that decision faster for who's on the other end of the line.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, follow the value. I love that value chain mapping, looking for those hotspots that are really important. Yeah, we were talking about this recently as the whack-a-mole problem, when you just you see use cases pop up, so you just say, let's apply AI to those because somebody's asking for them, but without actually looking for the real value. There's a challenge when you follow the whack-a-mole approach, and that's that, or you try to address the band-aid problem, the small immediate pain points that you want to address, and that is that you end up becoming a bit disillusioned with AI because it's not delivering the value that you thought you were going to get from it, because you haven't gone looking for the real high-value use cases. If you continually solve low-value use cases, you burn through the budget that you have assigned for, maybe for AI or for innovation or for whatever, and you don't get to the big, meaty, chunky problems that you want to solve. I think the way that people need to address it is to consider aligning with the business strategy. Like you talked about that, like customer experience. So if your goals as your strategy as a business is to be, have the best customer experience, or to have the most efficient operation, or to develop the most exciting products, then AI should be embedded into those objectives. Like that's where you should put it, because that's where the money is. Like,
yeah,
follow
aim at the money, not the moles. Right?
Yes, the money, not the moles. Right, exactly. Yeah.
I'm going to tagline that. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah. Hashtag money, not the moles.
Yeah. Hashtag.
Use it. That brings us on to the next kind of topic that we wanted to talk about, because when we think about looking at these more complex use cases, the difficulty in the high value use cases, typically the difficulty is they're more complex, right? So you and I spoke about what you were able to do building an AI scrum, a scrum team with AI members within it, and going beyond that even to really an AI first scrum team. Can you talk a little bit about how you approached that, what the results were, what the challenges were, having AI agents as Scrum team members?
Absolutely. It has been a journey. I think it's been nearly 2.5 years, maybe even 3, that the very first LLM dropped for us to look at. It was like ChatGPT 2 or something. And my colleagues and I mean, this is before even the startup days, the hello world version of using these AIs was, can you replace a Scrum team? So we all rolled up our sleeves because, we think we're clever. And we decided to create teams. And we mimicked a real world team. I had a data engineer. I had an app developer. I had a Scrum master. I had a security engineer. All the basic stuff, a tester. And we articulated our prompts. We thought that we had these really tight, beautiful prompts. And we told it to go forth and build us an app. So a couple of things happened. The first one was, wow. I mean, we took a 2-week sprint and we condensed it down in just a couple hours. But holy cow, was that code shit. Can I say that? It was terrible. Yes, it had no bugs, but it certainly wasn't what we intended to happen. So over time, I've now realized you have to govern your AI. You've got to give it your architectural principles. You've got to give it your code standards. You've got to be really, really rigid. And then you also need these agents to act on your behalf to go check that things are right. If you've ever worked with an LLM, it'll forget stuff, or it'll misinterpret. It'll remember the beginning and the end of your conversation, but the memory is pretty bad, so you've got to do a lot of memory management. And the best way I can describe, though, the really big epiphany is that stop constraining your agent. Just say, I want all these checkers, but I no longer need to choose for you who's a data engineer and who's an app developer. Because guess what? An agent is multi-skilled. It's multi-talented. So instead, just say, go forth and don't let your code touch. And make sure all these other agents agree with your output. And hats off. I mean, it's amazing. You can have a 2-week sprint in just a couple of hours. And that's because you are articulating. It's amazing.
Yeah, so I think what we'd love to hear as well is some of the, gotchas. Like you mentioned a few there, like not overly constraining the agents, or the agent's memory being an issue, so when they forget tasks that they're going through. But I guess there must be other ones which are around the security and the governance, and also around the cost side of things. So, I think we've all been there where we've accidentally spent shed loads of money on something with no value because we forgot to turn something off, or because we gave the agents too much free rein, or how have you been approaching that? You said the bank isn't full of loads of money right now for your startup, so how are you getting past that kind of problem?
Well, we're using AI for AI with AI. So I'll tell you a little story. MCP, you probably have heard about it. It's talked a lot about here. It's the future. It is loaded with security vulnerabilities. They published a big paper on it in July. I actually wondered if MCP was the right move. Oh my goodness, we were going to be in trouble with that. But guess what? I spun up a swarm. And I forgot to mention to you the term that you use, that ChatGPT is the one that came out with, of creating these Scrum teams, calls them swarms. So when we found out about the MCP problem, there's literally 3 of us in our startup. So we don't have a team of developers anywhere in the world that can fix these problems. So we actually created a security swarm to go plug all the security vulnerabilities that we discovered from MCP. And it took 9 hours. We let it run overnight. It went through every piece of code. And at the end, it had a deployed in production app that we were like, no, that didn't actually work. We didn't believe it, but it did. It was amazing, and that's how we had tackled that, is instead of thinking that you need to find people to plug some of these problems, actually use AI. That's what AI first means, but it doesn't mean AI first everywhere. You still need your humans to make sure that they're governed well.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that as well. So I think that's what we're finding at the moment, is that when you're vibe coding and you're allowing AI to develop software, it's really important to have the humans in there. Number one, defining the vision and kind of where you want to get to and that sort of stuff, but also really checking in the code and plugging the stuff together. So I think it's, you mentioned there, like asking them to not let their code touch, until they develop their module, and then, follow some rules and guidelines for the integration, but then keeping them somewhat independent, creating a modular kind of view, which you can rework certain modules as you go through. So that gives you a lot of flexibility. But I guess the question then is on the workforce end of things. So as we start to look at, the productivity approach, the software engineering approach, the product development approach, all these areas where we had a significant amount of human, productivity being used. What's the impact, you think? And we're starting getting into the doomsday kind of conversation now, but what do you think the impact is on the workforce as we start to enter that world where, a lot of us here are developers, a lot are engineers, a lot are, full stack devs or whatever. What does that world look like for those people in reality?
That is a huge topic, and I realized it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think we're going to lose our jobs. So I think it was PwC a few weeks ago announced they were laying off or not having any more students come in as apprentices to their organization. They were not going to do it anymore. And they said it was because of AI. I believe the software engineers that we have today are absolutely needed because AI, the agents only do what they saw was good on the internet or in GitHub or the lists of things you told it had to do. So even though it can debug code to find an error, it's not smart enough or creative enough like a software engineer would be to tailor or focus on maybe a different design. So they're not going to go away, but what I have discovered is I am orchestrating many things all at the same time. So my job has shifted. I guess the benefit of being an architect, it was a little easier, but I think we're going to all become architects, which is we're going to have to be aware of everything that's going on, understand how the AI is working, understand where it cannot make a decision. And that's going to shift the skill sets that we need. I spend most of my time now writing PRDs, product requirements documents, not for me, but for an agent to understand. So when you manage a team now, I have to realize I'm not just managing it for people, I'm managing it for my agents as well to augment my people. But my people are much more productive in what they're able to create. I just means we're going to end up with more, not less.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so excited about this moment when all of our developers are completely AI fluent and can just use these AIs just to accelerate their own productivity. It's that next step on how much we can, as a company or as a business or as an industry or as a species, produce from a productivity perspective. There's a huge inflection point that's happening right now. Is like how much we can be productive, and therefore what the potential for us to build. It changes. I think there's a massive change there. But naturally, there's you set up your company and you're a limited number of heads, and you're all working part-time side a desk, but you're building a business. We talked about, I was with some of the other businesses in my group that we got together last week, and we were talking about the next few years. What does the next few years hold? And one of the topics that came up was, in the next few years, there will be the first billion-dollar business that only has one employee. And what will that business look like? And what is the implication of that? I think there is a massive impact on the workforce when people start building these businesses. Will those businesses be resilient? Will they be fleeting? It's hard to tell right now. It feels right now that it's unlikely that they will be resilient if they're dependent on one individual. But you know what I mean? There is this potential for you to build that business. And then the next step of that is what about the first billion-dollar business that has no people involved? It's just an AI business.
So that's the real doomsday, right?
Right. That's taking it to that next level.
Yeah.
But I mean, you can conceive of it, right?
Absolutely. you could create ephemeral applications, meaning applications that are only available for as long as your interaction with them, to shut down when you're done, ultra personalized to you. But how do you validate that that's real? I mean, my parents still use Facebook, and they call me when they think that some app on there is like for real going to give them $1 million. No, no, mommy, it's not. But we've still got to worry about that. But on the flip side, how exciting, right? How exciting is that? So I think you cannot cede control of AI. You have to have governance. I don't believe you need to have your risk team with its list of controls and your AI COE that has all of its things that it's worried about with AI completely disconnected from what you're building. You're going to need AI representing those risks and controls in the code, checking it to make sure you're compliant. That's how you gain control and really run with AI.
Yeah, and we talked about earlier and over the past few weeks as well about how to govern, control, secure AI agentic systems, especially also when they sit across system. So, having these standardized control mechanisms and monitoring mechanisms for AIs across systems to make sure that they stay within the boundaries of what they're designed to do. So having a clear definition of what they should be doing, what data they should have access to, and what they should be able to call inside and outside the system, that's super important to make sure that they don't, well, number one, waste resources, but make bad decisions that can have massive negative impacts on the business. One of the things that we also talked about was, you mentioned earlier on the excitement of hyper-personalization, how awesome it's going to be when everything that we see is super personalized to us. But I'm also concerned by the point when hyper-personalization by every company in the world targeting me is going to create this sentient spam flood, which is just overwhelming, and we'll just all go off grid and leave the AIs as the only beings connected to the grid. But there is this fear that there's going to be this overwhelming amount of personalized information, which therefore makes all of it noise.
Oh yeah, I mean, you guys have saw the announcements this week from Meta, right? With their new upgraded Ray-Bans. Okay, I'm really intrigued by it, but I do not want advertisements in my peripheral vision. That would drive me nuts. But wouldn't it be cool to have a beautiful experience with the brand out in the real world, augmented reality style via my glasses? I mean, there's something there.
There's something there.
I don't know what. A whole load of problems.
Yeah.
But it's still cool.
And that brings us to kind of like the last topic kind of that we wanted to talk about, which is, and I've just written down, everybody hates a chatbot, discuss. But I think this is like, when you talk about this beautiful experience, there's an opportunity with AI to start to build experiences that really are, I mean, they're already there, right? They're already beautiful digital experiences. At the moment, the chatbots that we're sort of interacting with from an AI perspective aren't that. They're kind of flat, and they're kind of, lacking some of this kind of experience that we get through, customized, web applications and websites and stuff like that, customized content, which can be beautiful. How do you see, the future of the experience with AI?
I think AI is going to discover it before we do. I really do. Because it can be quite creative and think in ways that we as humans do not. So I don't know. The world's our oyster. But meanwhile, I do think that in the next year or so, we're going to see, like, we know about Replit or Replit. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's RAPLIT. It's that company that will build an app for you, and you have no coding experience. I don't love that experience personally, because I want ownership in the code, and I want to look in there, and that's kind of what they're trying to do. But I really believe that soon we're going to get much more responsive on the application experience with consumers. And I think that it's going to automatically adjust to you instead of having a defined application for a defined business function. I think that's the next likely step, which is quite incredible. And it's going to need a whole lot of people and designers and people that understand governance to make that real.
That's really interesting. So customized experience for the individual based on how how the AI believes they will best interact with that
Yeah, I mean,
process.
nobody wants beige AI.
Oh, Jesus, yeah.
I mean,
I know.
Claude Desktop really needs a UI designer. But yeah, that's...
And I think the other thing is that, at the moment, the brand, when we look at the way that we interact with AI in a search type interface, ChatGPT or even through Google, there's this massive detraction of brand identity from the content that we're presented with. We don't see the brand and the brand messaging until we click through to the citation or the link or whatever we're given by the AI. There's a missed opportunity there where our first interaction is with text. We're very visual as a species, so we consume information most rapidly, through image, and through conversation through audio. At the moment, we're typing a lot and we're reading a lot of text. In communication between humans, we don't do that.
Yeah.
And so there's this big question of why do we do it with AIs? And from a marketing and brand perspective, visual identity of a brand is massively important. I think there's an opportunity there for us to completely change the way that we interact with brands, where AI will be the interface between us and the brand. The question, I guess, is how will that interaction happen? Like, where's the AI? Is it going to be my AI? Is it going to be their AI? I think that's not defined yet.
It isn't defined. I mean, look what emoticons did for Gen Z. They speak in language. I say they because unfortunately I am not Gen Z. I'm Gen X. So I still use text. But it's very hieroglyphical and it's very visual and it conveys a lot of information in a tiny character, which is actually how many Asian cultures actually communicate. So I do see a change. The interface right now is a chat window, but who's to say that is not going to be our interface anymore? What if it's the visual command that we see in our response of our glasses as a glare, or what if it is understanding your wearable, your temperature, your heart rate, very alert driven? I don't know, but I am excited about it.
There's something else as well, which is that when we're communicating with an individual, a lot of it's visual. So the language forms one part, but the other is our facial expressions. When I'm talking to you and you get bored, I can tell because you roll your eyes at me, and I'm like, but you see this. There's a lot of information conveyed visually. We aren't really generally currently exposing the AI to that visual response, so the AI can't see how we're reacting to what we're seeing. There are some applications now that are starting to kind of crack open that little Pandora's box, but I think there's a massive opportunity there in giving the AI access to the camera to see how we're reacting to what we're seeing being displayed to us on whatever application we're interacting with.
Absolutely. Have you heard of Japa AI? JAPA. Don't ask me what it stands for. It was like a little tiny article that came out a few weeks ago. It turns out that instead of training a traditional large language model with text, it was approaching teaching autonomous AI, like the robots, how toddlers learn the world, which is not through text, right? It is through video and audio and response. And Japa needs only a tiny bit of information to understand instead of, the internet level amount of text. So I think we're going to see a few more evolutions of AI to really get to that level you're talking about. And imagine if that were in your wearable that can see the world, and then all the governance problems that go with that.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think there's so much change to happen in that space. So we're down to our last kind of 60 seconds. I think, whistle-stop recap. One of the things that we talked about at the start was the fact that every organization will be disrupted. Be disrupted, you choose. But if you're going to do it, you got to go after it. And you can't keep just playing whack-a-mole or solving the Band-Aid problem with AI. That's sort of where we began. We talked about the AI scrum and the opportunity to build teams that have team members that are AIs, the risks with those, the sort of potential for productivity and innovation with those. We talked a bit about doomsday, but we got out of there pretty quick. We went back to value, and looking for the high value, solutions is where you will become a disruptor rather than disruptive. And then we ended on that really exciting topic about user experience, the potential for change, the potential for beautiful experiences, and the future. What the future holds, we don't know, but it's exciting. You had one call to action for the audience that you wanted to give them some homework at the end of this.
Yeah. So don't panic. You can play with an agent now. Go to ChatGPT, create an agent. I broke it in 5 minutes. I challenge you to see how quickly you can do that. You can go to Lovable and create an agent there. There are accessible ways to use this AI now, and I highly encourage you to just get control of it.
Great, thank you. And we'll be at Stand E40 afterwards. We've got some demos on Databricks and Lovable on Databricks and vibe coding on Databricks, so come visit us. E40, that's right? Yeah, okay, great. Thanks.